Welcome to another edition of Trillium Talk TV. Something different, something better. You know, audience, the way things have been going on in Queen's Park, I really wish we had a Poizner there. Well, the people of Eglinton and Lawrence are going to get their chance to put one in Queen's Park. I'm here with Lionel Poizner. He is the Trillium Party's own candidate for Eglinton and Lawrence. Lionel, thank you for being a part of Trillium Talk TV.
Well, thank you for having me.
Now, Lionel, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? What got you interested in politics?
Well, in truth, I never was interested in politics. I went through high school, thought politics was a waste of time. And I guess you could say in recent years, or months perhaps, I woke up and I saw things that were happening that suddenly were extremely upsetting. Things that, I always thought our government was looking after us.
Well,
They weren't.
What are some of these things?
Well, things like spending billions of dollars we don't have. Just as another example, today I had to go and the government was telling me that I had to make sure my daughter was vaccinated or she was going to be suspended from school. Yesterday I was running around trying to get these vaccinations. Turns out, one of the vaccinations, I can't get at my doctor's or my family doctor. I have to go to Public Health Ontario and they have to give it. And it's like, we have a family doctor. I don't want some stranger giving my daughter needles that I don't know.
What was the vaccination for?
My understanding was that she needed a second dose of, something or other vaccine for mumps or whatever. And then there's another vaccination I've never even heard of, which I wasn't too thrilled about. My daughter's from the Philippines. They don't have this stuff in the Philippines. So who knows how she's going to react to this. I was not impressed.
Oh, yeah.
So these are the things, I'm seeing this, and I'm thinking, what's going on here? We got to, re-engineer this whole province.
Re-engineer? What? Are you a science nerd?
Well, I guess I was a computer nerd, and then I became an engineering nerd. I'm a consulting engineer. And I'm told the engineering impulses run pretty deep. Hard to suppress.
Well, where did you go to school for engineering?
Well, I went to Ryerson when it was a Polytechnical Institute. First, that was after I got sick out of grade 13, I went back. Didn't last because I got very sick again. And then I went back, I guess about 15 years later, but then it was already a university.
So you see the wisdom of vaccines now?
No. I'm afraid
not that kind of sick, okay.
No. Oh, no. That vaccine wouldn't help me. Not at all.
Darn. Well, okay, an industrial engineer, do we have any industry left to build?
Well, there was a time when we did. I was driving through Vaughan, and all I saw was a bunch of empty warehouse space. But at one time, we had a manufacturing base here in Ontario that was huge.
But so where did you and where did your classmates end up getting jobs?
Many of them worked for the auto industry. Some of them worked for plastics manufacturers. I myself decided, that was a very competitive market, and I wanted something that I knew wasn't going to change with the season or the model cars or the trends. So I went into the business of food. I worked for one of the big grocery chains, and I figured, everybody's got to eat one way or another, and that was a good gig. But then I kind of moved to another company, and they did the processing of vegetables for McDonald's. Well, that kind of made me rethink things because I came out of work every day smelling like an onion. And if you know how bad it is to peel an onion in your home, a strong onion, well, imagine having a machine that did 2 onions every second and a half.
So in spite of the fact that this job improved the way you smelled, you still left it?
Yes. Very quickly, I might add. I remember my tour of the plant. I was holding the guy's shoulder as he took me through. I couldn't open my eyes. It was bad.
It wasn't, it's such a beautiful plant. It's such a beautiful...
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's a beautiful plant. I couldn't see it.
All right, so food processing. So that's still, we still eat, so that still exists. So how does it feel to go back to the, class reunions and be frickin' Goldfinger as the only guy who still has employment?
Well, listen, things change. Some of the guys adapted and went into other areas of engineering. The reason I chose industrial engineering was because, theoretically, you could work anywhere. They work at the banks. They work at, in manufacturing. Even now in farming, they actually are starting to use engineers there. In fact, I was at Queen's Park the other day, and they decided to come up with engineering month, Engineering Month. And they said that's going to really promote people to go into engineering because we need so many engineers. Now, I have no idea why they think that's going to help. You want to lower their tuition, you might get engineers. You want to explain what engineers, that might help. But defining Engineering Week, I mean, I am an engineer. I didn't see the purpose to it.
Yeah, just put up a sign, engineers making your job obsolete since 1752.
There you go. There you go. No, I mean, listen, I've had an interesting career, and I've changed careers many times in terms of the type of engineering work I do.
Well, I bet that's given you some insights into what's going on with the province. So, okay, you were never in auto parts manufacturing, but you must have heard from some people.
Oh, I have.
What's going on? Why don't we have these plants anymore?
Well, it's very simple. Our environment here for these businesses has gotten to the point where it's very unfriendly for business. We pay more for hydro. We pay more for labor. We have this tax system where we have taxes on taxes on taxes. Just to give you an example, the taxes on gasoline got so bad, couriers, I spent the time in couriers, they now have a fuel surcharge that they put out because you never know what the price of gas is going to be. So when you're getting a package by any one of the big couriers, you're paying X dollars plus a Y dollar surcharge.
I think the bike couriers lobby tried to, put that in.
Well, they're the ones that are doing best, but even then, you can't take, a package on a bicycle and go from Toronto to Ottawa, unless you're prepared for 30-day service.
Lance Armstrong could have at one point. We're getting a comment from Facebook. This one's from John. Is there anything special Lionel wants to accomplish as an MPP in his riding?
There's actually a lot of things that I would like to accomplish. I'd like to strip away the taxes, help encourage people. If we have a strong business, if we have a strong small business, everybody does well. So as an example, in just gasoline alone, in Ontario, it's not quite as bad in some of the other provinces. I believe it's 36 cents out of every dollar spent goes to the province. Never mind the 13% or 13 cents. 36, and it's gone up, and I'm not sure how much, with the carbon tax. So, you have a minimum wage that you're earning $15 an hour, or $14 an hour, used to be 11, and you're paying $3 a liter for gas. You're not going to be able to have a car, right? We are paying taxes on taxes on taxes. It's obscene. And we need to restructure our province so that it's like it was. It was the powerhouse of industry, manufacturing, and now it's not. I mean, I watched my family business, which serviced that industry, a steady decline for 15 years.
What business was that in? What? It was your father who founded it?
Yes. It was my father's partner who started it. My father was just a silent partner for many years. He moved into it later on. Things change. And it was a company that would import products and then sell them to distributors that would in turn sell them to the manufacturing sector. So the companies would buy from them, not from us. And over 15 years, you could see a steady decline. It went, it went from doing, I guess, about $4 million a year to $2 million a year. And then when things got really bad, it went down to just a little over $1 million. We had 22 people working for us, and we wound up with, I think, about 11. That's a lot of jobs lost for a little company.
Wow. So aside from hydro rates and gasoline prices, I mean, what has to happen to get manufacturers to come back here? If you cut taxes and give rebates to hydro for a little while, that's not going to convince anyone to build a plant and invest millions or potentially.
Absolutely not. I mean, listen, there's a bunch of things that's not going to happen overnight. We have to make the environment here business friendly, and right now it is very much the opposite. So whether it's helping new businesses launch, property taxes are are out of this world. I actually know of a property downtown. It's a parking lot, and they're paying taxes on that property as though it was a 35-story building with 1,000 units in it. Well, that's like, I'll sell you a Volkswagen, but I'm going to make you pay tax on it like a Lamborghini.
Now, wait, let's be fair. What do they charge for a half hour?
For A half hour for what?
Parking.
Oh, well, originally it was about $4, I think. Now they had to raise it. Well, actually what happened was they didn't raise it. They renegotiated the lease so that they could pay less money for the lease.
Okay.
Right?
So
that's what actually happened. Because we don't run the parking lot. I'm just, we're just own a piece of this land. Somebody else actually controls it. And, hey, listen, you want us to run a parking lot? We want a business. We got to make money. Charge us less rent or we're leaving. Well, what are we going to do with an empty property down there? May as well do something. So they took less money on the lease, and now they're still there.
So have you been out canvassing around Eglinton and Lawrence?
Yes, I have. That was an interesting endeavor. I've never done that before.
Yeah, interesting question, too, because I don't think Eglinton and Lawrence intersect.
No, they don't.
Okay, but it's still called that riding. Okay,
I don't know why. I wasn't the one who came up with the name, but yes, that's the name of the riding.
Okay, what do your future constituents have near and dear to their hearts as issues?
Well, there's a lot of people that are in business in that riding, so pretty much every issue that's business-related seems to be important. There is an ethnic component in the riding that are concerned about the sex ed program, for instance, that sort of thing. I've come across a few other rather animated conversations about things like abortion, stuff like that. There's a good way of getting people all riled up. And there's no right answer on that one. What else have I come across? Big one was property taxes. All right, that's why 3 buildings right in a row on Avenue Road are empty.
On Avenue Road, really?
Yep.
Wait,
Right where the Elections Ontario polling office thing is, there's 2 big buildings right beside it that are empty and for rent. And let's face it, Elections Ontario is only a temporary gig, so that one was also empty as well. Right? That's almost an entire block of empty retail business.
But you have to admit, it is kind of ingenious, the strategy. Make it so expensive that nobody can afford to rent office space, and then rent it temporarily for Elections Ontario and take credit for stimulating the rental market.
Right.
Yeah, you get it on both
absolutely.
sides. Yeah.
But I mean, look at what they're doing. They're also, because it's so expensive to rent, well, it's encouraging online businesses. Right?
Yeah.
Theoretically. And I mean, that would be great too if they weren't taxing them so much.
Well, no, you know what? Gasoline taxes are encouraging people to walk and bike and go outside and get fresh air.
Weight?
Well, they haven't taxed you enough yet.
Obviously.
But we're getting there.
Okay, thanks. That's just what I needed to hear.
What am I saying? You're going to be in, right?
Hopefully. My goodness. Someone's got to do something about it.
Well, definitely. Now, okay, so you did mention in your background that you went through some health problems.
Yes, I did.
Now, what was your experience with the Ontario health system?
Well, I was very fortunate. I got sick. That's not the fortunate part. I got sick after halfway through grade 13.
I was going to say, you're a real glass half full kind of guy.
Well, I got that from my grandfather on my mom's side. But I got sick halfway through grade 13. They gave me the credits just because they were nice at the school. But I wound up at the Princess Margaret Hospital, and I'm a graduate from there, of which I'm eternally grateful. But when they were talking to us about treatment, they gave me 3 choices. I could get treated in the UK, I could get treated in the United States, in Seattle, or I could get treated here. The only difference between the 3 was my father would have had to put $250,000 down in the United States and somewhat more in the UK before they'd pick up a stethoscope and even look at me. Here, it was totally free, paid for by our OHIP. Now, if I had the misfortune of getting sick like that, there is some question as to how much of that OHIP would cover.
Well, yeah, surely the hospital visits are still covered.
Well, I'm sure many of the hospital visits are, but not necessarily all the medication, the radiation treatments. Never mind the fact that you have to wait up months and months just to try and get an MRI, right? When I was in the hospital, I needed all this stuff. I couldn't wait months and months. I'd have died before I ever had them, if I ever got the tests. Well, now, with the delays and the shortage of beds, I was in an isolation chamber. I was in an isolation room in the hospital. You can't have isolation when you're sitting in the hall on a bed getting treated. There's no such thing as isolation as people are walking by. It doesn't happen, right? Well, they've decimated what we had, which was probably one of the best medical care systems in the world. And now they've torn it apart, bit by bit, piece by piece.
Well, it sounds like we've got a few problems. I mean, I'll talk about this a little bit more with Bob in This Week in On Poly, but I don't know if you've seen any of the advertising from the Canadian doctors' lobby groups. But apparently the Ontario government had the foresight to cut costs by slashing residency positions. So that we'll just graduate fewer doctors, we won't pay as many people, and we'll limit cost growth in the system with no negative consequences whatsoever.
It's the no negative consequences that they messed up on.
Okay, oops. So it was 3/4 of a good plan.
3/4 of a good
Three-quarters of good. The follow through didn't.
3/4 full is what you're telling
That's
me.
right. 3/4 full.
The problem is someone drilled some holes in the bottom.
It's leaking a little bit, but it was mostly had liquid in it. Now, part of that issue is that if people can't get family doctors, well, the hospital becomes your family doctor and merge.
There's a whole other story happening there, and I'll give you my own example. My wife and my daughter are new to this country. I got married in the Philippines because they wouldn't let them in. That's a whole other story. I'll just get mad. I had to find a family doctor for both my girls. Well, there's one doctor's office right around the corner, which is very convenient. Oh, man, they're only open 2 days a week. So that's fine if my daughter happens to get sick on those 2 days a week. You know, if I get a letter from the government that says I have to get vaccines or they're going to throw her out of school and it's not on one of those 2 days, I'm kind of messed up. Eventually, I did manage to find a doctor. But, sure, we're taking new patients. We'll book your first appointment in July. I mean, really? You know, I remember when I was a kid and I got sick. I went to the doctors right away. I got looked after right away. Yeah, I wound up in, Sick Kids Hospital for a while, and then they moved me to Princess Margaret. It was one of those things where I didn't have to wait to get treated. I got what I need when I needed it. And now I have friends. They had to go and get treatment, and they needed some tests. They drove down to the States to get the tests because the waiting lines here were obscene. My uncle just passed away of cancer fairly recently, and he had to actually go to Israel for special treatments. Unfortunately, that was a whole different story. It didn't work out so well. And my uncle's gone. But I mean, the things that I'm seeing happening, it's frightening. It's absolutely frightening, and I don't know, and I don't understand why other people don't seem to see it.
Well, I guess we can sum up by saying, the Trillium Party does care about the debt, cares about the deficit, cares about cutting costs.
Cares about families.
But
That's what the important part is.
We draw the line at having an adequate number of residency positions for medical school graduates. that we can fund.
It's one of those things. Okay, if you graduate a lot of medical students and there aren't jobs here, they will go and get jobs elsewhere. If you don't graduate enough medical students, then what you have are huge lineups and high costs, and you still wind up getting people going other places to become doctors. They just don't come back here. They work where they graduate because that's where they get licensed. We're not doing ourselves any favors. And we are making it very difficult for future generations, my daughter, my daughter's children. We're just making it worse.
Yeah. Oh, we've got a question. This one's coming in from Facebook, from Jan Hansen. How would you fix the health system?
Healthcare, in my opinion, is one of the things, it's a top priority. It has to be fully funded. What does that mean? Well, that can mean a number of different things. But in terms of the medicines that are available, the treatments that are available, the number of hospital beds that we have, the number of nurses that we need, all of these things are essential components to our healthcare system. The number of doctors that we need. I shouldn't have to go, or my constituents shouldn't have to go running around to try and find a doctor, and even have to leave the riding to go get a doctor that's seeing patients 3 ridings over. I went to this little doctor's office where they're only open 2 days a week. Well, they have another clinic. It's in Scarborough. So now I'm driving to Scarborough to try and get my girls to the doctor. And they're complaining about traffic. They're forcing me to drive. Right? And you can't drive. That's another story. Don't get me started on that one. So in terms of how to fix it, well, we have to put into place policy that makes sure we do graduate enough students and we encourage them. All right? It's the same thing. Mental health is part of healthcare. All right? We have some major problems in the area of mental health and in the area of supporting people with disabilities and chronic conditions. I just lost my mom to Alzheimer's. And that is not an easy thing to deal with. And the kind of help you can get from the government for that, I think we had someone coming in once a week to go and check her because she had a little cut because she fell. And you know what? Not only did my mother need help, but my father needed help. I needed help managing this. Now, I was very fortunate. I mean, my dad did okay over the years, so we could afford a caregiver. But I know a lot of people who have similar problems that can't. One of my close friends, her father's having some serious problems. She can't have a caregiver, 24 hours a day. She's counting on the government. Right now, her dad's in a hospital and he can't leave. So there are things that we have to do. I mean, I don't have all the answers yet because I'm not in the thick of it to see where they're spending money and where they're not. But I can tell you it's something that needs to be re-engineered. And by gosh and by golly, I'll do that if I'm in.
Right on. Well, his name is Poizner, but he cares about the health system.
That's right. Don't
Lionel,
let the name fool you.
I guess just to sum up, so you're mostly interested in taxes, improving the economy through the growth of small business and regulations, as well as addressing problems in the healthcare system.
As far as I'm concerned, 3 core interests, right? Healthcare, okay, education, and small business. Everything else after that can look at it. Will manage on its own. If I look after those 3 things, we'll have prosperity. Everybody will have what they need, and the overall, I guess, education of the province will go up, and that can't be a bad thing.
Fantastic. Well, Lionel, thank you for being a part of Trillium Talk TV. Stay tuned. We've got another guest on the program. Another candidate will be joining us momentarily. Welcome back to Trillium Talk TV. Something different, something better. I'm joined by Bobby Turley. Bobby is the Trillium Party's own candidate for Scarborough Southwest. Bobby, thanks for being a part of Trillium Talk TV.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, Bobby, I got a question for you. If I was in Scarborough Southwest and I was voting for the Conservative candidate, I'd essentially be voting for Doug Ford. Mm-hmm. If I was voting for the Liberal candidate, I'd essentially be voting for Kathleen Wynne. If I was voting for the NDP candidate, I'd essentially be voting for Andrea Horvath. What difference does it make? If I vote for you, am I not just essentially voting for Bob Yaciuk? How is he different than the other party leaders, aside from the fact that he's better looking and more articulate and more intelligent?
Well, I'd have to stop you there.
Okay.
So I don't know about all that. But I respect what Bob has done with Trillium. He truly has made all the roles of the MPP individual. And we need more of that. We need more of, the role of the MPP being able to represent its constituents. And the difference between us and the 3 parties is the MPPs can truly represent the constituents. There's no whip votes. And that's what we need.
Well, okay, so you guys don't have a party whip. What's the point of having a party? Isn't this just going to be total chaos and anarchy? Queen's Park is going to be a bunch of cats running in different directions aimlessly, and nothing will get accomplished. I mean, do you think the Trillium Party itself has any coherent ideas?
The Trillium Party... I met...
Would you say you guys are like an effective team?
I was just about to get on that. I did a lot of sports when I was younger. And the key to a good sports team is to have good teamwork. And when I was at a rally the other day for Bob to be in the the debates, or in the leaders' debate, sorry. And I met a lot of the other candidates, and right away, it was instant camaraderie. The people, it's like we're a family, and we all are aiming for the same goal: to make Ontario great, and to make it a better. And no matter what, if we have different opinions, we're all representing our constituents, the role of an MPP.
Well, right on. Now, you look awfully young. I'm not sure if that's because of your late birthday or if that's just diet and exercise and clean living paying off over the years. But do you have the personal experience? Do you have what it takes to represent a district in politics?
I had a lot of personal experiences when I was younger. For instance, in about 2009, my dad had contracted a virus, and he was put on life support. And the doctors told my mom that he had a 1% chance to live. And it was a great responsibility for me and my brothers to be there for her, just as she was there for us, just as my dad was there for us. And when that happened, I had to mature a lot as a boy. I was young at the time. I think I was 11 at the time. Had to mature a lot. And my dad, he slowly started recovering. He beat the odds, the 1% chance, and he slowly started recovering. And it was helpful for me because I had to be there for him just as much as he had to be there for me. And it helped me mature a lot as a young man, because he was just, I can't even explain myself. It was just I had to mature a lot as a young man.
So you're mature beyond your years.
Yeah, I had to mature a lot, and just being with my dad being there for me, it gave me he instilled the old-fashioned family value systems. He helped me out in ways that I can't even explain.
So even though you're young, you still come from the old school.
I have an old-fashioned heart, old-fashioned spirit, I can say.
Now, I gotta say, Bobby, I don't even know if I believe that you're from Scarborough. You kind of look like you were transplanted from Iceland or Denmark or someplace like that. Aside from the accent. Now, you're from Scarborough, born and raised?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Scarborough, and I've lived there all my life.
So I'm from downtown Toronto. I have to ask, what do people on your side of the tracks prefer as a nickname for your town? Scarberia, or Scarlum?
Well, a lot of people from different places don't understand how great Scarborough actually is.
No, we don't. We make fun of it on like a constant basis.
There's a lot of problems that people have with it that aren't from Scarborough. If you're truly from Scarborough, you'd understand how beautiful it is. We have landmarks like the Bluffs. I don't know if you've heard of it. The Bluffs. We have great neighborhoods like Cliff Crest, Birchcliff. You know, areas like that truly like represent what Scarborough actually is. Scarborough has a bad name, and I want to turn it into positive. I want to grow the economy better.
What now? Okay, so you've done some canvassing in Scarborough.
Yeah, I've gone around, met a lot of people.
What sorts of issues do they talk to you about?
They talk to me about mostly the reputation. There's a lot of youth not being able to get jobs, and just because of Scarborough name. And I'd like to change that. I like to inspire people. I like to help out people. Well,
Speaking of the youth that aren't able to get jobs, I mean, it seems like the youth are pretty disengaged from politics in general. The voter turnout for the under 30 demographic is pretty weak. Like, are you going to be disengaged as a member of provincial parliament in Queen's Park?
The great thing about Trillium is there's no whip voting. So at Queen's Park, if I was elected, I'd truly be able to give my constituents a voice at Queen's Park. And I hope that the youth are able to look at me as a role model, and I hope to inspire them, to get more into politics. I was at the RO office, and actually at Elections Ontario, and I saw a lot of resources, a lot of people trying to help out the voters, and like you said, less than 30% vote. And why? I don't know why that is. I'm trying to change that. I'm hoping to get more people engaged in it.
Well, it sounds like you want to serve as an inspiration for them. If you're there to vote for the youth, and given some of the Facebook comments, I won't name names, but especially the young female voters will be out in force, inspired to turn out to the polls. Well, thanks a lot for your time, Bobby. So to sum it all up, your personal integrity and your experiences make you a good candidate. The Trillium Party's a good party because you can really represent people specifically, and you're really from Scarborough, so you know what people around there care about.
Yeah.
Well, right on, and good luck with the upcoming election. Stay tuned for Bob Yaciuk and This Week in On Poly. Oh, wait, I'm being told we have another bit.
Yeah, I'd like to just say, I hope to be elected to give my people of Scarborough Southwest a true voice at Queen's Park. And I hope to inspire a lot of people to vote for me and to bring up Trillium Party. And I want to thank Bob Yaciuk for giving me the representation of Scarborough Southwest. And I want to thank you, Greg, for giving me the opportunity to be on this show. It was a pleasure.
Well, thanks for coming out.
Yeah.
All right, now stay tuned for This Week in On Poly. Welcome back to Trillium Talk TV, and now for This Week in On Poly. Bob joins us on the program every Tuesday to talk about...
glad to be here, Greg. Come on, glad to be here.
To talk about the events of Ontario politics from the last week. We're now also joined by Stacey Sirkova.
Hi, everybody.
Stacey has an interesting anecdote. Now, before we get into that, though, Bob, before we got on the program, we were chit-chatting a little bit, and you mentioned that you were into boxing back in the day.
Oh, my God. You're going to bring that up?
Well, I am. Because...
Why do you think I'm qualified to be in politics right now?
Well...
I can take a hit, and I can roll with it. And
well, now, were you just a participant, or were you also kind of a fan? Did you watch
I was kind of beaten up.
Well, okay. Well, let me explain to you, where I'm going with this. See, now, if you're managing someone, to eventually fight for the title, you have to, build them up to make them popular and have a following, but they've got to look a little vulnerable, or everyone's going to be afraid to get into the ring with them. No one's going to give them the chance. And that's the misstep.
You're awesome,
It feels
Greg.
like I think you guys made. It seems like nobody wants to debate, not just you, Bob, but also now Stacey.
Well,
I mean,
you're saying we're the little mouse that roared. Stacey has a great story for what happened there. Right now, I'm going to say it this way. We are being suppressed at every corner. I never thought it was like this when I was growing up. I thought, Canada, we're the greatest, most democratic place in the world. We're awesome. We should be exporting our democratic process. You know what? I'm not saying that anymore because strange things are happening. Stuff that you see only when you're on the inside of the party. Stacey has, I think, the ultimate story. Stacey, why don't you tell what happened to you when you were trying to get into a debate that anyone would think. We have a sitting member of parliament. We have people. We have a slate of candidates that is huge. And tell them what happened with you.
So I don't want to make it like a scary story because it has a good end for me. Basically, what happened was I was attending the returning officer meeting yesterday, and I met NDP candidate who just approached me and asked whether I'll be the one coming for debates on Wednesday. I wasn't sure which debate, so I asked him to provide information or get in touch with somebody. And I emailed the person. I found out it was secretary of, basically it's called Syndicov Homeowners Association. And I asked her whether I can take part of this event. And then all of a sudden, I received, I guess it was addressed to the other person, and when later I found out it was addressed to the president of the association, it was stated that...
Can I read the?
Sure.
Can I
Go
read?
ahead, go
Can
ahead,
I
'cause
read the
it's-
font?
'cause it's
What's the
hilarious.
first one? Let's read the letter that Stacy said. The first one, and I hope you can see that on your screens, ladies and gentlemen. But this is what a nice letter from a nice
Nicely
lady,
put, right?
nice candidate that's respectfully asking. Hi, Pat. This is from Stacy. I received an info about the coming debate this Wednesday. I am a candidate from the Trillium Party of Ontario. I was wondering if I can attend the debates. Best, Stacy.
Wait, can I read the response?
Oh, yeah. Great. Yeah, get in here. We got
All right, let's see this. John, what do? I checked Elections Ontario and got her name, plus that of the Libertarian I had earlier invited, to no response, plus a Communist Party person! Exclamation mark. Selfishly, I don't really want any more candidates, as they'd mess up the timing and leave less time for residents' question. I'm actually just reading what's here. I think he meant questions. Which I see as the most important element. But as she has asked, do I have an obligation to invite her? And if I do, must I invite the other two or any others who have registered in the meantime? Looking for permission to be nasty and an elitist jerk.
I don't see the word jerk on there.
Well,
but you know
look,
what? It's
it was
implied.
getting a little bit
It's
dry.
implied.
I
implied.
had to spice it up a little bit, but
So I get this message from Stacy. Bob, look what they're doing. And candidates from all across Ontario, from Thunder Bay out to the edge of Quebec, are having the same problems. They're being ostracized, not allowed to come to the debates, and it all seems innocuous. They got all kinds of reasons. Oh, you didn't get 4% of the vote last time. Oh, you don't have a full slate of candidates. Oh, you don't have a sitting member. Oh, wait, we do. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Well,
We are
now,
actually-
Bob, I don't understand why they had an objection to inviting the communists, though. I mean, Kathleen Wynne is a sitting premier, and her representatives should be allowed to the debates. They have a majority in Parliament. And...
So I get this. Greg, sometimes I'm just not going to comment on your comments. That's just the way it's going to be. So Stacy Stacy called me up and she goes, Bob, what do I do about this? And you know what? It was so blatant, but it shows you the inside of the organization. It's to protect the big three. Now, Sandy Cove Acres, that's what would you say? Maybe there's 5,000-6,000 people in there. That can turn an election. That can change an entire election
lot
where
of people.
sometimes only 12,000 people vote. And you know what the cool part about Sandy Cove Acres is? It's a retirement community. And what is the largest voting demographic in all Ontario? It's older people. That's who votes. And what was this association trying to do? What were they trying to stop? Stacy, take it from here.
Well, obviously, what happened was I was so disappointed. I felt it's so unfair. I'm not delusional. I know I live, in a country which is, yes, proclaimed as a free and democratic, but apparently our government is corrupted, and I think everybody's aware. So I expected that they probably just will deny me access, but I didn't want to read all this, right? It's really a slap in the face. So I mailed Bob. I asked our lawyer. I I got so much people to just repost it, so everywhere on Facebook. I emailed it to a couple of journalists, and guess what? I was getting back like, yeah, I'll take a look at it. Meanwhile, I'm busy with something else, and things like this. Usual, right? Usual response. So anyway, it was shared to too many people, and I started getting there's a group on Facebook called Innisfil Berry. I represent Innisfil Berry Politics. And people just like to share opinions and different views and information. So I added posts with emails, print screens, and basically people said, "Wow, what a shame! Why she even says that this is a person who represents the decision of residents? We are residents, so shame on you."
Now,
addressed to that person.
Stacey, I have to ask: did any of the journalists eventually publish this?
Nope.
Well, the journalism industry in Ontario is vibrant with great returns to shareholders, so their judgment about which stories to run is top notch. So, unfortunately, there was just more interesting stuff to publish.
Yeah,
that
like
day,
a
I guess.
deer in the 404, right? Or something like this. Yeah,
I would be
exactly.
surprised.
Anything has to be more important than possibly stopping the gravy train that's feeding them. Now, you know what? That's not what democracy is all about. I sent a response to Mr. John Bicknell, the president of the association, and my response was this. Excuse me for reading off my phone here. Dear Mr. Bicknell, I'm the Bob Yaciuk, leader of the Trillium Party of Ontario. I'm reaching out to you to get some clarification as to whether or not you're planning to give permission to Ms. Porth to be nasty and elitist. That's what she asked for. Or do you think that maybe the residents should have their options and supply of election information be maybe a little less controlled, manipulated, and filtered? We are currently we're looking for opportunities to resolve what we perceive the SAHOA, that's the organization, nasty and elitist character to truly be. The casualness and assumed acceptance of Ms. Parth's request indicates to myself and so many hundreds so far based on social media, and we're getting a lot of feedback, folks, on this, that this request seems to be nothing short of a clerical formality with the assumed acceptance by you and the board. I am sure the residents of your community will simply be shocked and appalled when they find out that their political interests are being selfishly filtered. What I'm trying to say is, Greg, this. Everybody's wondering why they don't see the Trillium Party stuff out there. Everybody's wondering why they don't see the Green Party stuff out there. All the other smaller parties. Those are interested people that has huge followings. The Trillium Party is leaps and bounds ahead of the others right now. We have huge tides of people turning over to us. We have thousands of members. And they say, oh, I don't see your signs up there or anything like that. It's organized. We are, I think, Stacey, would it be fair for me to say it's orchestrated that we are not to be heard? Would that be a fair statement?
For sure.
Yeah. Tell you another quick story. It's not so quick because
Shall
I'm
we
not
mention
capable.
how it ended up? So,
Oh
yeah.
my gosh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Stacey?
Yeah, just...
And what happens when you fight to the death and you fight for
you
what's
win.
right?
You win. And we did. So, a couple of hours ago, I received an official apology from that secretary, and she admitted that yeah, it was my fault. I'm sorry it slipped out of my mailbox, and
I bet
it
you
actually
are.
came to you. And I think, yes, our residents deserve an opportunity to
The
see
passive-aggressive-
what Trillium offers. And basically, tomorrow, me and Bob are going to be attending this event, and we'll be glad to see anybody from Barry-Innesville who'd like to.
So it's a non-apology, though. I'm really sorry that I CC'd you in that. You shouldn't
I'm
have
really
seen
sorry
that.
I got caught. Sounds like Kathleen when she with the gas plant thing when she said, "Yeah, I acknowledge we had a breach of trust. Oh, so sorry that $1.6 billion has gone. So sorry I can't give $100,000 to every autistic child in Ontario."
No, this is a little bit worse, though. This is like, sorry that you noticed that $1.6 billion disappeared with nothing to show for it.
But this is so systematic of what's going on. I know Greg, I know you, Stacey, and I know all the listeners out there right now think that they live in one of the most democratic countries in the world. It's a lot less democratic than you think. I go down to the town of Newmarket, and I don't mind naming names because truth is the ultimate vindication here. So I go to the town of Newmarket, and I want to put up signs. And we have put up a couple hundred signs in our town here. And, we're looking awesome out there. I go out the next day, and over 70 of our signs are taken down. They're in the proper spots. So what the town of Newmarket says is this: you are not allowed to exercise your democratic right as defined by Elections Ontario in this town unless you give us $500. So what does that tell you? Only the rich are allowed to run for office. Stacey, are you rich? I wish you were too. I'd ask you for a donation to my campaign. Fact is, the Trillium Party doesn't abide by that. Fact is, the Trillium Party still has enough chutzpah to get up every day and go out and get elected. So we're protesting it. They extorted the money out of me under protest. We are now pursuing it in legal manners. We have other candidates. For instance, Roman Evtuk from King Vaughan. Sadly for him, he has two municipalities that he's straddling. He is paying over, I think it's $1,100 or $1,200. One riding wants $600 to be able to be Democratic, and the other one wants $500 to be able to be Democratic.
But is he rich?
Not anymore. He just had to pay off the town. He had to pay off Tony Soprano, in order to run. How about Liz Marshall? She has 5 townships. I don't know what she's had to pay, but she's a scrapper. Everybody knows. But Stacey, how are you feeling about?
Everybody profitability from letting us put the sign because they want to make money out of it.
It's extortion, is what it is, and it's guaranteed. You know what?
Why they make profit out of this? I don't understand.
Because they can, Stacey. It's endemic. It's endemic to
We
way.
represent interest of electors. We try to make people aware of what's going on.
Well, then you have to be punished because you're rocking the
and
boat.
you have to pay money for this now?
No, you just have to
only-
grease a couple skids.
Political party.
This is politics, man.
You
It's
know
a
what,
public
Greg? Your honesty is
organization.
scary, actually.
It's a public organization. Why we have to? You know what I mean? Well, we're not making any money, and we have to pay.
Because they would prefer having the money in their pockets rather than yours.
What is the job of government nowadays? It used to be to represent you in Parliament and serious issues, help the people get ahead. You know what the government's job right now is? To be able to reach their hand into your pocket, see if you have 5 cents extra in there, and even if it's not extra, to take it away. Through the carbon tax, through excess taxing, you can call it whatever you want, but it's to find out how much extra money you have in your pocket and figure out how to get it out of your pocket so it can be in their pocket. And you know, when I went down to the town of Newmarket there to with my concerns regarding it, the arrogance, the hubris was palpable. I was looked at and treated like a piece of dirt in that place. Like, why am I trying to rock the boat? I don't mind rocking the boat. That's why we started the Trillium Party. That's why you get a list of, that's why you're getting a list of candidates out here that are representing the Trillium Party, because they also don't mind rocking the boat. Our message is getting out there, but it's being stopped by the Chambers of Commerce. Were you invited to the Chamber of Commerce debate?
Yep.
Are you going?
I'm really happy. Yeah, for sure.
Right, I
was
wasn't.
actually. I know the story. It was the first one in Barrie I got invited to.
Whoa!
I don't know what happened in Newmarket.
Newmarket Chamber of Commerce told me I wasn't invited. Oh wait, they allowed the big 3 out, and they advertised the big 3 in a quarter-page ad or half-page ad of the local newspaper, and they put that big ad in there, and they labeled the 3 candidates of the big 3 parties, and they called it a candidates debate. And you know what they're allowing us little guys? I'm going to say it again. We have a sitting member. We vote in our important legislature. You know what they do? They allow us to set up a little table outside of the debate area. I feel like I've come to Thanksgiving dinner and I'm sitting at the kiddie table.
Do you have little chairs for your little table?
Here's
And
the
we can put up
homework,
signs, but no bigger than the table, of course.
No bigger than the Do they have to be behind the table that you put them up?
And I don't know if we have to get our cookies checked out or, you feel they treat you like, they demean you. They treat you like a 12-year-old, and that's the Newmarket Chamber of Commerce. I'm angry about
What
it.
a shame.
It's a shame. You know what? If I was a member of the Chamber of Commerce, Newmarket Chamber of Commerce now, I'd ask them to change their policy. I'd look for another chamber to join. That's all I would do.
No, but you quit like me. Their meetings for breakfast were like 7 a.m.
Hey, I've been in private sector for a long time, Greg. I don't know about you, but I get up at 7 a.m. every day to have my coffee before I leave for work at 10.
Yeah, okay, good. There we go. There we go. Now, you know what though, with all this extortionate behavior that's been going on with provincial politics, and granted, even with the sell-off of some assets, the provincial budget is not looking fully funded. There might be a little bit of a deficit, but selling off Ontario Hydro, I'm sure.
Who's selling off Ontario Hydro, Greg?
Well, I mean, it's already been sold off. Hydro won.
Okay. Listen, if you go back through Hansard, you can look at when the Tories sided with the NDP to fight against selling off of Hydro 1. Oh, and then you can look at when the NDP sided with the Liberals against the Tories issue of trying to sell Ontario Hydro. Everybody's tried to sell Ontario Hydro. Well, you know what the gang sign is for Ontario politicians? It's just holding your fingers, pointing at everyone else but yourself. That should be the new gang sign for Ontario politicians. Hey, anybody else but my fault. Yeah.
Oh, we've got a comment. This one's from Facebook. This comes from John Grant. This is our first victory against the elites. Way to go, Stacey and Bob. I could not be more proud to be associated with the Trillium Party of Ontario.
John Grant. And why are we saying John Grant? Because he says he'll give us $1 every time that we say his name on Polly. What else did we have? Oh.
Well, no. There was a whole lead-in with Ontario Hydro that I don't know. Did you? I don't know if are you a shareholder of Hydro One?
Oh my gosh, Ontario Hydro, no, because I wish I was. Well, I guess I pay the taxes for it, but I don't think I'm getting their cash rebate, not rebate, but share, what is it?
Well, you missed out, okay? They've just increased their dividends by 5%. They posted a quarterly profit that was 33% above expectations. So it looks like if you sell off a monopoly, that monopoly can still make good money.
Oh my God, are you going to see that? Because I hear you're 40% owner, Greg. Yeah. Oh no, you get more taxes. You know what? The Ontario government, as far when it comes to business, are geniuses. If their whole mission in life as capitalism is to do the least amount of work they can while getting the most return, they're rocket scientists. Wait a minute, they're not acting like they're employees of ours, and that's what they should be acting. Your job, Stacey, my job is what? Represent the people and get biggest bang for your buck. And are we getting that? No. Is that why you're here? That's why I'm here. Stacey is one of the biggest scrappers I know. I like to hog a show. I'm sorry about that, Stacey. If you want to butt in here, I've never known you to be quiet, church mouth. But
this is why she got invited and you didn't, by the way.
I'm all done.
No. I want to hear this
right now.
You know, the only reason why he didn't get invited because there's no Pat Porth who would say, John, shall I invite him? You know, it would happen to him. I guess they just had to invite him as well. So just by mistake, it was an opportunity, you know, one opportunity, maybe one in a lifetime, but at least now we can stand up and say, listen, we deserve it, and they prove we are the same, we're equal to anybody else, and Trillium deserves the right and opportunity to come and talk to residents because we are no worse than anybody else.
When you allow this filtering process to happen, you're being abused. Plain and simple. Your political rights being abused. And now let's do a little wrap up here. Let's give an update on the CBC controversy. I don't know whether you know it, but we are going after the CBC now for not allowing us to be in the debate, the big debate, the big show. And we have our lawyers working on that, and CBC has sent a letter back saying they're considering it now. We, of course, recognize this is CBC lingo, elitist lingo for saying delay until it becomes an irrelevant issue. And now we are pressing forward on that one. You know what? Don't screw with the Trillium Party. We don't back down from a fight. We're not the pushovers that they think that they're used to. We have so many candidates now. You've heard two of them today, and you've heard others on other days. We stand up for what's right. Yeah, we get kicked in the butt quite often. We get restricted in where we can go and what we can do, but we get right back up again. You know what a sign of a successful person is? Somebody that gets hit in the noggin and isn't afraid to get back up and go back into the fight. And that's what the Trillium Party is going to do. And we will get up every single time, and we will keep fighting back because it's them or us. And when I say them, I mean the PCs, I mean the Liberals, I mean the New Democratic Party. Those are the big three. Those are the people that have screwed you over and over again. It's almost like a bad relationship between, let's say a girl and a guy. The girl goes out with this PC boyfriend, and the boyfriend starts beating her and hitting her. What does she should do? She should absolutely leave that person.
Your lawyer covered this one first, right?
Oh man, I'll say it because you know what? Say what you mean and mean what you say. She should leave that person and have him charged, right? So she does, and then the Ontario voter girlfriend goes and said, I'm going to meet my Liberal boyfriend. Oh, and vote for the Liberal. And then what happens? They get beaten down, and then, screw you, I'm going to go over to the PC boyfriend, back to the PC boyfriend. And the same thing happens over and over, back and forth. You do not get $330 billion in debt, or 390 if you want to believe the auditor, because of the Kathleen Wynne and the Liberals. You get into that much debt because of the Liberals, because of the PCs, because of the NDP. Each one has done something really, really foul. Kathleen Wynne, well, it's unbelievable the stuff she's done. PC sold off Highway 407 for a song. The NDP, they sold the land registry to an American company. Oh my God. When do you have enough? When are you going to break the cycle of abuse and pick something different? Try us out. Vote for Stacey Sarkova in Barrie Innisfil. Vote for Bob Yaciuk. Vote for Lionel Poizner. Vote for Bobby Turley. We will make a huge difference. And you're worried about what we can do? We can go to Parliament. Let's say you vote for me, Bob Yaciuk, and I get to provincial Parliament. I'm going to be in there, and you're going to, what can one vote do? I'll tell you what one vote can do. When you see that let's go with the polls right now and say Doug Ford's going to win the election. Let's say he does. So far, he's flip-flopped on at least 3 things, maybe 4, and that's before he even gets elected. So let's say he gets into office, and let's say he starts not doing any of the things that he said that you swallowed again and believed he would. What Bob Yaciuk can do is this. I could say, I'm putting a private member's bill in, and I am voting for, well, let's pick something he's promised, sex ed curriculum, which he stated categorically is at the bottom of his totem pole once he got elected as leader. So I'm going to put a private member's bill in, and I'm going to say, we are putting a private member's bill in that says we are getting rid of the sex ed curriculum, and we're going to revert back and do a proper consultation. It'll all be done up in legalese. And then what are they going to do? What are the PC members that rode on that vote, on that message going to do? They're going to have to show their true colors. They're going to have to look at their constituents, and they're going to have to, well, I know what they're going to do. They're going to follow the party whip, whatever Doug Ford tells them to do, and they're going to vote for exactly what they're told to do, and they're not going to vote for it. But they're going to have a problem because now I have forced their hand in Parliament to show the colors. And you know what? Maybe a few of them will have a conscience and vote for what's right. Maybe I can bring some of those issues up front so that they're forced to vote for it. The party doesn't lose, democracy doesn't lose oomph because you put a Trillium candidate in. A party picks up its oomph, its impact. Your community will pick up its power again when you put a Trillium Party candidate in because they will represent what's best for your community, not what's best for the leader.
Well, Bob, that's the beauty of flip-flopping. Then technically anything you do is something you promised.
Oh my gosh, you're a rocket scientist over there. You come up with, you should be running for office the way you can just flip anything around. Flip-flop, flip-flop, flip-flop forward, and...
I wanted to run for the Trillium Party in Newmarket, Aurora, but that riding was taken.
We have standards. Jeez. So you get to be a candidate or you get to be the host, and here we go. Oh, Greg, quit hitting me. Ow, ow. He's kicking me, folks, under the table. Yeah.
Well,
The Trillium Party is full of scrappers. You've seen a couple of them here today, and Stacey is the ultimate scrapper. She says it the way she is. She's one of the single most fearless women I've ever met, and I would not want to be in her way. If I was in Barrie Innisfil right now, I would be supporting Stacey Sarkova because she is not afraid of anything, and certainly she's not afraid of the leader. I would never, ever be able to tell her what to do. Ever. Ever. I wouldn't dare to.
I appreciate it.
Well, Stacey, we can't wait to see what the debates turn up. They're going to televise it, I hope?
Not this one. The one on the May 30 will be Chamber of Commerce, and there will be Rogers presented, and they probably,
But you can get someone to sneak in with their cell phone and...
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah.
So your Chamber of Commerce in Barrie Innisfil is more democratic than my Chamber of Commerce in Newmarket. Huh.
I think the way they went it, by just seeing who is registered. So I was registered, I guess, against a few people because there's still some people waiting for the nomination paper to come. So they invited me right away. I guess that's.
So I'm going to go right back and
practice.
say, so the Barrie Innisfil Chamber of Commerce is much more democratic than the Newmarket Chamber of Commerce. Yes, I'm really, really, really upset with them. In fact, no, I won't say that one because I don't have my lawyer with me. All right, folks, we're getting...
Well, I was going to say it's been a solid hour, but Stacey, Bob, thanks for coming back on the program. And thank you, Ontario, for listening. This has been Trillium Talk TV. Have a good night. See you next week.
Thank you, everyone.